Are y'all ready? Are we ready? I feel weird. One on camera, two in class. It's like, where did everybody else go? It's not fall break yet. All right, so we're looking at understanding drug labels today. So the drug order that we talked about, or the drug orders that we talked about on Tuesday, you've got to match them with your drug labels. So you can make sure you're giving the right drug at the right time. So you must have, you must prepare the order from the drugs on hand. Sometimes you'll have where they'll match, you'll have the right amounts. Sometimes it won't, and you have to do the calculations. So the drug label tells us how the available drug is supplied, and examine the various preparations from labels. So on the components of the drug label, you've got your generic name, you've got a brand name. A brand name is going to have a registration mark. It's going to have an R that's circled. It stands for registered, or it's a trademark symbol. We have our dosage strength, and our dosage strength is just how it's the weight of the medication. So it's how much drug, or how much of the drug is in the tablet or in the milliliters. The route of administration is going to be like, your oral, your IV, your IM. We'll get to those in a second. The dosage and administration. You'll get, on some of them, they'll have the usual dosage or the recommended dosage, and we'll use that later on in different ways. The instructions for mixing a powder medication, those are it's when we reconstitute medications. We'll get into that in Chapter 12. Every drug label, or every label that's out there, will have an expiration date. The ones that I print from the internet don't always have an expiration date. They also don't always have a lot number. But if you pick something up from the pharmacy, or you pick even an over-the-counter drug at Walmart or something, it will still have an expiration date and a lot number. We'll talk about controlled substances, black box warnings, storage information, the total amount in the bottle or in the vial will be the total amount of medication, or the total number of tablets, or the total number of milliliters. Then you've got a single-dose container or a multi-dose container, single-dose vial or multi-dose vials. And then we'll talk about the manufacturer's name. So that's just all the components. Not everything will be on every drug label. Not every drug is a controlled substance. Not every drug has a black box warning. It won't always tell you the total amount. It won't always give you dosage and administration instructions, because there won't always be a usual dosage. If it's not a powdered medication, there won't be instructions for mixing. So, we won't always have everything. There won't always be a brand name. You will always have a generic name, okay? There will always be a generic name, but there won't always be a brand name. And if we look down a little bit, the brand name, or the trade name, it's also called a proprietary name, is the manufacturer's name of the drug. The brand name is always the most prominent on the word on the drug label, and it's set in large type and boldly visible to easily identify. And the example I have down here, Carafate is my brand name. It has the R's, what that little letter is right there. That means it's a registered symbol. So this would be my brand name. And then this, I can't say that word today. This is my generic name. Okay. So those are the most two easy things to identify. If I go over here to the Bantamine, or whatever you say this one, notice this doesn't have an E or a registered symbol. Or it has an E, it doesn't have the R or the trademark symbol. And that's the only name on the drug label. So this is my generic name. Okay? So there will always be a generic, but there might not be a brand name. As a nurse, you need to carefully cross-check all your medications. The doctor may have ordered Carafate, but what you may get from the pharmacy is the generic form. And that's okay as long as you know that that's the generic for that medication. And I don't have enough room today for everything. Our dosage strength is how much medication is in the vial, or bottle, or tablet. Notice this one says per tablet. Oh, it's hard to read. So this would be my dosage strength. Or I could say it's my weight of the drug. In each tablet, there's 600 milligrams of that medication. On the penicillin, it's a liquid because it's an oil solution. There's 250 milligrams in every 5 milliliters, so per 5 milliliters. Or they also give you the units. There's 400,000 units per 5 milliliters. So sometimes the dosage strength is a weight, but not always. Just remember, it's the weight, the 250 milligrams in every 5 milliliters. So if we look at our little practice problems, and I'm looking for the brand name, and if you look closely, that's got a little R here. So the Norvise is the brand name. The generic name is what's in parentheses in lowercase. If you have a brand name, your generic name is going to be lowercase and in parentheses, and sometimes it'll be italicized. So my brand name is AMIOD. I can't say half of these. Most of the time I call it, okay, that medication he ordered. And then my dosage strength is right here. It's 10 milligrams. And then, of course, these are tablets, so there's 10 milligrams of medication in each tablet. And then I have the Medrol. Some of these I can say. So, and again, notice the Medrol has that little R, so it's my brand. The methylprednisolone tablets, USP, that's all lowercase, well, except for USP, but we don't put tablets. That's not part of the generic name. That's the form of the drug. So I would put the methylprednisolone. Only thing I do know about that one is that it is a steroid. And I know that because it's prednisone. And then again, my dosage strength is 8 milligrams. So this part's the easy part, being able to tell the generic and the brand names and not getting confused, and the dosage strength. Matter of fact, to me, this whole chapter is easy because there's no math involved. It's all just kind of knowing what the different parts of the medication label is, or in the different parts of the drug label. I said medication label, medication order. All right, so we have our forms. The form of our medication, it's the structure and the composition. So we have the solid dosage forms, which is oral use, which is your tablets, your capsules. Sometimes you got the caplets, where they look like a capsule, but they're solid like a tablet. We have some that are powdered or granule medications that are not manufactured in tablet or capsule form, but they can be directly combined with food or beverages. I think of the Goody headache powders or the BC powders. They want you to take those in powdered form. It works faster, but you can spray them over some applesauce or put them in a little bit of orange juice or something, and they'll still have the same effect. Used to, when my kids were little, I could get the little capsules of certain medications, and I would sprinkle what was in the capsules over the food because before they could swallow pills, and they could take it that way. And then the other, others, maybe powder, but needs to be constituted. They're liquid. A lot of our injections are liquid. that have to be, or they're powder, but they have to be reconstituted to liquid. And of course, these aren't milliliters, drops, or ounces is how you're given those. And then you've got your crystal or your clear solutions. You've got your oil suspensions, which is solid particles in the liquid. You've also got your creams, your antibiotic creams. You've got your suppositories. You've got your sublingual medications. There's still tablets or capsules. They still go they still go in the mouth, but they dissolve under the tongue. So sublingual itself is a specific route. But it's not a form, it's a route. Okay. So this tells us, these are just examples where it says oral solution. We know it's a solution or a suspension. It's a liquid. This one has our tablets. The extended release capsules, they're capsules, but they're a specific type of capsule. You can't cut these in half or crush them because they dissolve at a specific rate in your stomach and release medicine as it goes. Injectable medications may be supplied with a solution of dry powder to be reconstituted. If you've got a medicine that has to be reconstituted and it comes in a dry powder, when you're asked the form, you can put a powder to be reconstituted, or you can put reconstituted into liquid or something. Other forms such as suppository creams and patches. Forgot about the patch. My grandmother used to have to wear a nitroglycerin patch before she passed away years ago. I think my dad still does wear one. Some people will wear the, I don't know if they're estrogen patches, that's what they're called, but they're birth control patches. A lot of girls will wear those. A lot of women, older women, will wear estrogen patches when they've gone through the change to keep their estrogen up into the, how do I want to say that? To keep their estrogen at regular levels so they're not going to feel the effects of the menopause. So, then we have our supply dosage. Our supply dosage is the dosage strength and the form. Okay, the supply dosage is always the measured units per some quantity. I'm going to do this ruling first. 10 milligrams is my dosage strength. So it would be written as 10 milligrams per, and it's in tablet form. So it would be per tablet. Now the heparin is a liquid. It's for IV or subcutaneous use. And it's 50,000 units per 10 milliliters or 5,000 units per milliliter. When you have two different amounts like this, but if you think about it, if you take 50,000 and divide it by 10, you're going to get 5,000. So they're equivalent measurements. So I could write this one as 50,000 units per 10 milliliters. Or I can write it as 5,000 units per 1 milliliter. So I can use either one of those. And that's my supply dosage. And the methylprednisone, it gives it to me right here, just right in plain sight, 80 milligrams per milliliter. Okay, so sometimes your supply dosage is easy to find, sometimes it's not. I'll have to wait on that one. The total volume is the total amount of liquid, total amount of tablets that's in your bottle or in your vial. So with this one, my supply dosage would be the 20 milligrams per 2 milliliters, but it's a 2 milliliter single dose vial. So my total volume is 2 milliliters. It's just the 2 milliliters. And here, my total volume is the 100 tablets. Okay? I did a much better job of this earlier today. I wasn't as tired. All right, the administration route, that's how you're going to give it. So it refers to the site of the body or the method of the drug delivery into the patient. Examples of routes would be oral, enteral, which is the feeding tubes, the sublingual, which is under the tongue, the injection, which is your IV, IM, subcutaneous, your ID. You got optic, which is in the ear, optic, which is in the eye, your topical, which are your creams, your rectal, which is a suppository, and the vaginal is also a suppository. And then there are others. Unless specified otherwise, tablets, capsules, and caplets are all oral use. They're all, your route would be oral. So this nitrostack, it has sublingual here. So that's the one that you're going to put under your tongue. And the penicillin is oral solution. So your route is oral. And then down here, it just gives you the delivery methods of drugs. And again, same ones I've pretty well mentioned before. And I did leave off, there wasn't mentioned inhalations, but the inhalers and stuff that you have if you have asthma. Or if my husband had to take an inhaler when he had pneumonia real bad. My son had to take breathing, they're not inhalers, but you're still an inhalant. He had pneumonia, walking pneumonia as a child. He had it 3 or 4 times. And he'd have to do the breathing treatments. And he would smoke his pipe, he'd call it. It looked like a little pipe. His grandpa smoked a pipe. But those are some of the inhalants, or inhalations. Label alerts. Some of them have, this is your black box warnings. It's also little bitty tabs that the pharmacy will put on. Sometimes it's take with food, or don't drive heavy equipment when you're taking this, or the drug may cause drowsiness. So there's some of those. Refrigerate. Amoxicillin has to be refrigerated once it's mixed. Keep in dry place. Replace cap and close tightly before storing. Protect from light. Those are all label alerts, all special instructions on the label. Then you have your black box warnings. It's an indication that the drug carries significant adverse effects that may be life-threatening or may contribute to serious disabilities. So a lot of especially the heart medications will have it. Wellbutrin is a antidepressant. It has bupropion. I can't say that word. But it has this. But then you have this little black box warning down here. You have 2 little warnings. This one's the black box, but this one says, do not use with other medicines that contain the bupropion, or whatever that word is. And then federal law requires dispensing of Wellbutrin with the medical guide under the label. So when you peel the label back, there's this thick piece of paper underneath it. And it has a lot of the adverse reactions that it's going to have. So if you get something like this, you get something with a package insert or something under the label, be sure and read it. There's a lot of good information there. The name of the manufacturer, sometimes it's listed right in the middle of the label, but you will always have it where the place it is in the small print. Okay, the small print is where you're going to find a lot of the label alerts too. This one's Lanet. We've also got one that's Lilly Company's the one, Eli Lilly. Is one that always comes to mind. I think Bayer is actually Bayer was a registered drug. It was a manufacturer. Every label is going to have an expiration date. It's going to have EXP, and then when it expires, usually the month and the year. And it will also have a lot number. The lot number, the medications, when the manufacturer makes medications, they will make them in a big batch, in a big vat, and they'll mix all the ingredients and components together in that vat. And if it's in liquid, then, of course, they'll just fill all these jars. And if it's tablets, they'll compress them into tablets and let them dry. But what they do is every one of those, it may be that big vat may fill 3,000 or 4,000 or 400,000 vials or bottles of medication, and so they all have the same lot number. And I don't remember what the medication was, but not too far back, they did a medication recall because they found glass in the medication. So they recalled the whole lot number because it was all made from the same batch and bottled from the same batch. Years ago, Tylenol had been tampered with. It had been tampered with in the manufacturing place, and they had to recall several lot numbers from it. But they found that the person that had taken it in, I don't know exactly, I don't remember, it's been so long ago what happened to the person. Some bad reaction anyway. They ended up in the hospital, I do remember that. But they got the lot number from the packaging or from the bottle the patient used, and there's 2 or 3 different people that reported it. And anyway, 2 or 3 different lot numbers. All right, so that's my expiration date and my lot number. The lot numbers can be found, just like the expiration date, they can be found in different places, and they can look differently too. This lot number looks a little bit different than the others. But it's where medication has been identified with a specific lot number. They're all unique. It's important of a drug that's recalled, and it quickly identifies a particular group of medication. Then we have our controlled substances. These are drugs or therapeutic agents that have the potential for abuse or addiction. And to me, this is backwards. A Schedule 5 should be the highest and Schedule 1 should be the lowest. Well, it's backwards to me because the Schedule 1 is the highest potential. A Schedule 5 has the lowest potential. Okay, but this is how they're classed. These are Roman numerals. This is 1, this is 2, 3, 4, and 5. So you need to know at least your Roman numerals for 5. But controlled substances are regulated by the state and federal laws and include narcotics, stimulants, depressants, hallucinogens, anabolic steroids, and chemicals used in the production of illegal substances. It seems like we get more and more controlled substances every year with people using them in a way they're not supposed to. To identify a controlled substance is with the capital C with the Roman numerals in the middle. So morphine is a Class 2 narcotic or a Class 2 controlled substance.
So there we go. I got that chart up there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the chart we use to determine. But what I'll be asking, because that's a little more medical field than I am, as far as when you identify parts of the label, I'll say, is this a controlled substance? If it is, what level is it? And then you'll just classify it as controlled substance level 2, something like this. I don't go into a whole lot of detail as far as what each one is. And then we have our unit or single dose versus our multi-dose vials. A single dose vial is preservative free. It doesn't have the antimicrobial preservatives. That's those little microbes that you hear about in biology. They don't have preservatives to prevent them. Generally, when you take and give a dose out of this vial, a single dose vial, you're going to throw the rest of it away. So like with this one, it has a total of 4 milliliters in the volume, 4 milliliter single dose vial. So if you were giving 1 milliliter of medication and you pulled out 1 milliliter, then you're going to throw the other 3 milliliters away. Because once that covering on top's been breached or poked, then it's considered contaminated for anybody else after that one use. So you throw it away. Then you have the multi-dose vials, and it contains the preservatives. Okay, and they may be used to administer multiple doses of medication, and you're going to use it per, the same patient for that one vial. This has 100 milligrams per milliliters, and it's a 10 milliliter multi-dose vial. So I can use this. If I'm given 1 milliliter medication, I can use it at least 9 times. I don't know, sometimes because you pull out more than what you need to get the air bubbles out. So you won't necessarily get the whole 10 milliliters out unless you're giving a 10 milliliter IV injection. Of course, it's assigned to a single dose or single patient, or it's recommended that it is. Most hospitals will assign it to a single patient. Some nursing homes, especially the people that are there a long time and with insulin, they will sometimes take one vial and give to several different patients if they're taking the same kind, because they're all going to use it. I mean, they're there permanently. And then here's our practice problems. And like I said, this is mostly just kind of reading through it and remembering it and being able to identify. Our drug form, remember our form is what it looks like. How is it a tablet, a capsule? Is it a suppository or a cream? Is it an injection or a liquid? So a lot of times, if it's not just flat out right here, it'll be in the small print. But this one says 90 tablets, so my drug form is going to be a tablet. My route of administration, since it's a tablet, my route's going to be oral. And then my dosage strength, how much medication is in each tablet? It's 40 milligrams. And then the total amount, that means the total amount of tablets in the vial is going to be 90 tablets. And then we look, is there a black box warning? Is there a grayed area that's got a warning in it, or is there just a warning on it? And this one doesn't have any warnings. And I didn't talk about tall man letterings, but there are look-alike, sound-alike drugs out there. And I think it's in this chapter, a different chapter. But the tall man lettering, you will have, and I'm going to use this one, it may not always be something like this, but you will have some letters that are in small or lowercase. And then you will have some that are in larger case. So that would be like your tall man lettering. Some are in large or uppercase, and some are in lower. So this doesn't have the tall man lettering. Is it a controlled substance? Do we have that capital C with Roman numerals? No. Does it have a brand name? If we look at this Parox, I don't know, whatever this medication is, it doesn't have the R out here for the registered. Okay? And this is the only name on the vial. And if it's the only name on the vial, then it's the generic name. So it doesn't have a brand name. Okay? So let's look at our morphine. This isn't morphine. This is Ativan. Okay. So what is our dosage form in this one, in the Ativan? I need to zoom it in. Can you tell what our dosage form is? There's a couple of hints. It doesn't come right out and say it. If it's given in milliliters, or if it's for an IM or IV use, then my dosage form is generally going to be a liquid. Okay? Because in order to give an injection, it has to be a liquid. So our route is the IM or IV. We don't want to just say injection. We want to be specific on what type of injection we can give. My dosage strength. I can use the 40 milligrams per 10 milliliters, or I can use the 4 milligrams per milliliter because they're equivalent. So this is just wherever you want to go. You can put them both down. Oops, 10 milliliters. And then I've got to look, what's the total amount? This says 10 by 10 milliliters. So I've got 10 vials. Each vial has 10 milliliters in it. So my total amount, and I'm generally talking about total amount per vial, I have 10 milliliters. And I can also put out here, I have 10 vials. each 10 milliliters. However you want to word that, like that. You can do either way, I don't care. Does it have a black box warning? Does it have a warning? You know, this is a black box, but that's just the label. So there's no warnings on it. Is it a controlled substance? Yeah, it's got the C. It's a class 4. So yes, it has. And it's a class 4. Does it have a brand name? And this one does right the opposite of not doing it. It gives me Ativan, Azepam. Well, Azepam is your generic name. Even though this Ativan doesn't have the R for the registered symbol or the registered trademark, it has 2 names on it. So this one does have a brand name. It's Ativan. If I give you one of these to identify, I'll try to make sure on the test, which I will give you one to identify, I'll try to make sure it has the registered symbol on it, so it won't be any questions. Okay, any questions about any of this yet? Okay. We have a national drug code, which is the NDC, and every federal law requires that every prescription medication to have a unique identifying number. Much like we have our Social Security numbers, we have unique driver's license numbers for the state. We have unique school ID numbers. Even as a faculty member, I have a school ID number. But they're all unique, so every medication has to have a unique identifying number. And it's found, and it's 2 places it's found. It'll give you the NDC code, and then the barcode is the same. And I had to ask my daughter, who's a pharmacy tech, was a pharmacy tech, why, what is it about the NDC code that it's also the barcode? And she says that's how they order the medicines at the pharmacy. They'll use the barcode or the NDC code depending on what they have. They have set up. But they always, it's always some form of the NCD code or NDC code. Then we have the United States Pharmacopoeia, the USP and the NF, and you've seen this on several labels where it's got the USP. It's the USP and the NF are on the national, they're the 2 official national lists of approved drugs. So they're the drugs that are approved by the FDA, Federal Drug Administration. Each manufacturer follows special guidelines that determine when to include these initials on a label. They don't all have the USP or the NF, but most of them will. Be careful, don't confuse it with characters such as the SR, which is sustained release. There's the ER, which is extended release. There's a few other abbreviations like that. So, but make sure it's either USP or NF for the National Drug List. And then we have combination drugs. Combination drugs have 2 or more drugs in one form. And generally it's a tablet or caplet. This is Percocet. It has oxycodone and the generic Tylenol. I have never been able to say that word. I can say it in my head all day long. It will not come out my mouth. Your dosage here, dosage strength, it's 5 milligrams per 325 milligrams, which means that it's 5 milligrams of oxycodone, and it's 325 milligrams of the Tylenol. I think I just spelled Tylenol wrong. I think it's L-E. I don't remember. I don't know. I don't spell. Not a speller. But anyway, and the doctor will order these. Generally, he'll order take 2 capsules of 5 milligrams per 320, or 5 tablets of 5 milligrams per 325 milligrams of Percocet. So he'll give the dosage strength, and he will give the number of tablets he wants you to take or she wants you to take. And then again, your supply dosage is exposed as a ratio or as a percent. We're not going to get into the percents just yet because we'll see them later on. but our supply dosage, again, is the units of measure, or the amount of units per measure, per something like milliliters, or tablets for the form. So, a ratio solution expresses the number of grams of the drug per milliliters of the solution. It could be milligrams of the drug per tablet per tablet. If it's an IV, or if it's a liquid, it's always going to be milliliters. In chapter 9, it talks about the 6 rights of medication. Medication administration. There's more than 6 rights of medication, or 6 rights of patients, or there's more than 6 patient rights, but there's 6 that pertain to just the medication administration. So you've got to make sure you have the right patient, make sure you have the right drug. So you're going to make sure your label matches. Make sure you have the right amount. You want to double check all your calculations. You're going to make sure you have the right route. Make sure that the box you pick up, if it's an IM injection, it says for IM use or for IM or IV use. If you've got an IV injection, it either has to say IM or IV, or it has to say IV only. Okay? If it says just IM, you cannot give it in an IV. So make sure your box or your container or your label, whatever drug, matches what's been ordered by the route. Make sure you're giving it at the right time. Okay? Some of our questions later on in the book will talk about giving medication at the right time. The right documentation is recording it into medical administration record. So it has to be documented that it was given. So those are your 6 patient rights. When you're reading chapter 9, make sure you notice, make sure you read about the 6 patient rights. They're in the nurse's responsibilities. So, because some of that will be on the test, but not a whole lot. I forgot to look. So, as a nurse, you will want to check the drug label 3 times. You want to check it against the medication order, or the MAR. So, again, make sure you've got the right drug, the right name. If the doctor's ordered the brand name, but the pharmacy sent up the generic name, make sure you've got the right generic drug that matches the brand name. Before preparing the medication, so you're checking your medications and then you're getting ready to prepare it. So double check that medication again. Double check your dosage, what the doctor's ordered against the dosage that you have on hand. And then after preparing the medication and before administering it, because sometimes you'll prepare the medication off in another room, and then when you go to administer it, make sure double check again. And then this last page is just kind of a review. Things that you need to know. Identify the drug and the manufacturer. Differentiate between the brand and generic names, the dosage strength, the form, supply dosage, total container volume, and administration route. These will be on the test. Being able to know those. Identify those. Which one? I didn't show that. Because not all the time, when you have a drug that has to be reconstituted, it's tablets. I don't see it now. I saw it earlier today. Now that makes me wonder if I'm losing. Okay, I can't find it. But sometimes, I'm going to go back to this Ativan. If it doesn't give you the 40 milligrams per 10 milliliters or the 4 milligrams per milliliter, it just may give you the 40 milligrams. Read the small print over here, especially if you know that it's a liquid and if it's a dry powder and has to be reconstituted. The supply dosage will be over in the small print sometimes, and the volume will be. It'll say add maybe 2 milliliters of diluent to reconstitute to an approximate volume of 2.2 milliliters, and then I'll have in parentheses, which would be your supply dose, maybe 330 milligrams per milliliter, or something along those lines. We'll see more of that when we get into the reconstitution, but if you can't find it on the drug label, then look in the large print, look in the small print. All right, so any questions? We all good? Skip over right here. No hand up, okay. So read chapter 9. I want to test Tuesday, but I think I'm going to change it. I've got to be out Thursday for a conference. So I think I'm going to test on Thursday. It'll be similar to test 1 where it's on the computer, so y'all won't have to come to class to take it. Still have to upload your work and all that. So, and there may not, this is the second test. The only work you're really going to have to show is for the conversions, because a lot of this doesn't have work. You're not going to do a lot of work on it. Since there's no questions, we'll see you on Tuesday. I will probably start chapter 10 on Tuesday, but still test over only chapters 3 through 9. Okay. All right, have a good weekend. And I will see you all next week. Yes, sir.
How do you get so that you're this long on the canvas?
Okay.
What's it called?
Yeah, go to the modules. Okay. If you want to visit or come to class, go here, and then whatever link I've got showing here, that's the link you use to log on. Sometimes I forget to change the date. Okay. And then this is all the recordings that I have uploaded. They're YouTube recordings. Where I converted them to YouTube. So if it pops up, you got something from YouTube. Yeah. That's it. All right. And then the handouts for today were under under week 6. And I'll have some kind of homework up there too.
All right.
You're welcome.
Then I guess those other 2 assignments will be due before Thursday.